My name is Marc Dragon, right? I've been in the industry for about 20 plus years, right? Started off with IBM for like more than a decade. I was with Deloitte as well as a director in their strategy practice. Then about 6 years ago, I made the bold move to start my own company, right? As a fresh startup, right? And so it came along with all the pains of cash flow and finding clients and projects and stuff like that. So long story short, it went relatively well, right? Goldman Sachs came in, invested in the company, and then subsequently, the owner of Y3 asked me to pick up the mantle of leadership in Y3 and bring it to IPO by 2020, right? So that's where I am, right? For Y3, we are one of the region's leading supply chain technology solutions firms, right? And we aspire to be the leading supply chain omni-channel solutions firm across Asia Pacific, right? So far we're about 200 employees, right, across Asia Pacific. Singapore is our headquarter, but for myself, I straddle a lot between China, which is more specifically Shanghai, Chongqing, as well as Singapore and ASEAN as well. I think over the long term, right, short, medium and long term, there are benefits to ASEAN in terms of adopting or rather participating in the overall initiatives, right, that China is leading, right. For the short and mid-term is really because there's a lot of financial commitment and financial support when it comes to infrastructure setup and investment, everything from ports, railways, land, roads, those kind of things, right? And that basic infrastructure will then be able to level up a lot of the economies in ASEAN, right? In terms of the capabilities, right? And with that, a lot of the ancillary industries in those countries can also be leveled up as well, right? So I think that's a short and medium term answer. In the medium and long term, the moment that these new logistics transportation capabilities have been set up, right, that will truly enable greater, faster, more fluid trade flows between China and ASEAN. Okay, but we have to also bear in mind, right, with that dynamic changes, companies and countries will need to really watch it and monitor it and plan not only in terms of how to leverage the new capabilities, but also to in terms of where the risks and the threats are to their own businesses as well, right? Because it will disintermediate a lot of industries and a lot of companies as well, especially since all these new logistics capabilities will be coming up, right? Countries that are dependent on being transshipment hubs, for example, right, need to rethink their place in the world as well. Having spent more than a decade, in large MNCs, rising to good positions, right? It could have been very comfortable for me to stay on in MNC, right? Was it midlife crisis? What was it? But really, I felt that the industry changing, right, 6 years ago, right? I felt the advent of data analytics, right? I felt the advent of cloud computing, right? And I felt the advent of e-commerce and the whole cloud, changing different business models that's available in the market, right? So, and I felt that I wanted to spend more time in this space, right, and value add into the space and experience the space, right, that I couldn't do in an MNC environment, right? So with that, I came out and said, okay, there goes the salary and the bonus and stuff like that, and raise money from friends and family and stuff, and start up my own company, right? And the opportunities I see, especially now, is that it's not so much where's the money and things like that, but actually it's the mindset change, right? Especially Singaporeans, we need to look outside, Okay, we need to look outside of Singapore. There are huge, tremendous opportunities outside Singapore. I spend, again, most of my time in China, right? And I learned so much in China by staying in China, right? It's one thing flying in and flying out, but when you stay and live and immerse, you have a totally different perspective, right? And what I learned from China, is really things like business model innovation, right? Pricing innovation, right? How they compete, it is tremendous. If you can survive there, you can survive here, which is also the problem, right? Because that also means that if they come here, we'll be in trouble, right? So Singaporeans need to look overseas to learn and to adapt and to be flexible and also for opportunities as well. I'm actually very excited. Okay, so even though I might sound like an old man, right? 20 plus years in the industry and stuff like that, but I see myself as an entrepreneur at heart. Okay, and as I manage Y3 as a business, one of the things besides China in terms of business models I look at are also the startup space as well, right? And the startup space being dominated really by the millennials, right? Why? Because the startup space is really a space where new innovations are being tested, business models are being tested, right? And if you don't monitor it, right, it might come and bite back at you, right? That, oh, why didn't I think of that, right? So I work very closely with the startups. I invest in startups. I mentor startups, and also, we also get them. We pull them along if we think that their technologies and capabilities are something that is beneficial to us or to Y3 when we look at larger deals, right? But back to your question on millennials, I really believe in diversity, and I'm very excited by the new thoughts and thinking and the fresh, perspective, white sheet type of thinking that the millennials bring, right? And I also am very energized by the kind of questions and the way that they interact, even with very senior leaders, right? And that, I think, benefits both, in the mid to long run.